Hello, it's Daniel from On the Block Vaughan, and it is time for your monthly market report for the month of September 2023. I'm going to walk you through in detail some of the things that are going on in the real estate market in the GTA and specifically in the Vaughan area to give you a better understanding of all the things that are going on, what has been, and what to expect going forward as it relates to real estate in the market. To start off, I'm going to jump right in here to talk a bit about the Toronto market. This is the overall look at all of the GTA and surrounding area that the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board covers, of which Vaughan is a part. You can see here some really key indicators, and I'm going to zoom in so that you have a better idea of what I'm talking about here. These are the things that are going on in the economy right now. It's no secret that interest rates are at the highest level they've been at in quite some time, and that has had a significant impact on the real estate market. We're seeing that in pricing. We're seeing that in the volume of transactions that's going on out there. And with that, it's telling a story of what has been and what we can expect going forward. Now, here, broken down into the 416 and the 905, we can see in the month of September the amount of sales that have taken place, as well as the average price separated through detached, semi-detached townhouse and condo apartments, which are the four largest and most significant sectors in residential real estate. Also below the line here, we can see the year-over-year change in percentages for each of those things. So the key areas that we're going to talk about and that we're going to focus on when we dive into Vaughan are first, detached homes, especially. It's the biggest segment, especially in the Vaughan area. When you can see here in the 905, there were 1,600 homes sold in the month of September of 2023. And that's actually down 12% for the same period that it was in September of 2022. And you're going to see a similar trend taking place for the other freehold homes, semi-detached, 242, down 24%, and townhouses down 13%. Now, condo apartments, in terms of transactions in the 905 area, were up in the number of sales, largely due to the fact that they are a lower priced type of home. And for some people who are still transacting in real estate, their ability to afford a home in a higher price bracket, which typically falls in the freehold range, is not as possible now. And you would have seen them transitioning to buying something that's more affordable, which tends to fall into that condo apartment range. That's also why townhouses didn't fall by as large an amount as semi-detached might have. As far as average price goes, when we talk about that, in the 905 area for September, the average price of a detached home was $1.343 million. That was up year over year by 2.5%, which does not follow the same pace as what inflation has been, which has been closer to 4%, meaning that it didn't pace the same as the price going up of other things in the same period of time. And that number was fairly similar when you look at other freehold homes, semi-detached and townhomes, very close to each other in the average price, and up between 2.2 and 4.1% year over year. Condo apartments as well are up in price year over year, but by an almost negligible figure of less than 1% year over year at $660,000. Overall, in the entire GTA of all properties, the average price in 2023 year over year for September is 1.119 million, almost 1.12 million, which is up 3% year over year. But the total number of sales, again, are down year over year for this period by 7% overall. You'll also notice, which we're going to talk about, that new listings are up by an incredible 44%, meaning compared to last year, there's over 5,000 more listings that have been put on the market in the month of September than for the same period in 2022. We're going to jump specifically into the Vaughan market here and look a little bit more at some of these numbers so that it's more relevant for our market where we do our business at On the Block. You can see here, this is an overall picture of the month of September for the city of Vaughan. All home types in Vaughan, there were 182 sales over the month of September. So not a lot. Okay, this is not a big number. It might seem like that's a lot, but Vaughan is a big place. And year to date, there have been 2,500 sold, What that means in real numbers, to put it into perspective, is up until September, Vaughan was averaging almost 285 homes a month. And in the month of September, that number dropped by 100 homes, basically. And that's just compared to the average over the course of the year. So the number of transacted sales in the Vaughan market has decreased considerably when you look at it compared to the rest of the year of 2023. Detached homes, semi-detached homes, condo towns, and even apartments. We were talking before about how apartments are up a bit overall in the 905. When you look at the month of September compared to the rest of this year, not compared to September of last year, but to the relevant period that is 2023 to date, these are all down considerably against the average number of sales that had taken place so far this year. That's a really important thing to note because it does show the trend of how many people are transacting in this market. And we're not talking a negligible or a marginal difference here. When we're talking that we've gone down from about 285 on average to 182, that's a decrease of nearly 50%. That is a very significant number. It's something to keep an eye on, and it is a function of affordability being crunched really hard because of interest rates and also the prices that are out there on homes that are in the Vaughan market right now. You can see that the average price on average in the month of September was $1.281 million compared to an average price for the year of 1.34 million. So you'll remember that when I showed the last chart year over year, prices were up compared to September of last year by about 2.5% overall for the 905. But this trend is not just a Vaughan trend. When you compare the month of September 2023 to the rest of 2023 and the trend that we've seen throughout this year, prices are still lower than they have been on average for the rest of this year. The reason for that is in September of last year, things were still lower. We're going to look at a chart that outlines that in a minute. But there was a bit of a spike at the beginning of 2023. You might remember there was another price boom, and we reached, in some cases, record highs, but definitely much higher prices than we're seeing right now. And we're beginning to rebuild that momentum now with pricing as the interest rates have, fingers crossed, started to calm down. There is still speculation that there will be potentially one more interest rate hike coming up in the October meeting. But there has been a considerable slowing of that. It was held at the same rate at the last Bank of Canada announcement. And with that, the market is starting to get used to where we're at right now and come out and start spending money and purchasing homes again with a little bit more confidence in the mortgage rates that they're going to be able to lock into. So this trend continues again, really regardless of the type of home. Detached homes, the average price 1.753 in the month of September compared to, for the rest of the year, about $90,000 higher as an average price for 2023. Semi-detached is also lower. Condo townhouses are up a little bit compared to the rest of the year. Condo apartments are basically flat for the rest of the year. And the reason for that is some of the lower priced homes didn't take as much of a hit in going down because they are more affordable. And so the rebound, although not as explicit either in going back up in price, didn't have as much ground to make up versus the rest of the year because prices did not go down as much in those segments as people were, in a lot of cases, transitioning from detached and semi-detached freehold homes to more affordable options that largely were under that $1 million mark, which is a threshold for which a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, are trying to stay within. In terms of new listings, you can see here there were 728 new listings that came on the market in September 2023. That is higher than the average number of new listings that there had been for the rest of the year. So this is actually a virtual record number of new listings in recent memory that has come on the market in Vaughan, which is a great thing for adding to supply. You can see also with only 182 sales that took place, adding 728 new listings to the market means that there's a lot more inventory that buyers can look at and it can make the process a little bit easier for buyers to take their time, determine what's available, and pick the best home for them. So that is pretty much the case for most segments of new listings as well. We're seeing record numbers. Things are starting to come back on the market. And because sales aren't happening at the same torrent pace that they have in past years, where some properties would come on the market and disappear in 0 or 1 days, almost sight unseen and in multiple offers, because of the fact that there's so many new listings and not as many sales taking place, buyers again are able to take their time. And we're seeing some of that as well with this last column here. What this stands for is the listing days on market. And that tells you on average how many days a listing will be available before it sells on average. So comparing the first day of a listing to the day that it's sold, on average, how long does that take? And for all home types, we're at 23 average days on market versus an average, even for this year, of 19. That's a big difference. And it means that there's a lot more time, again, for people to consider their options. And also, it's a good message for sellers to make sure that their expectations are in line with the way that the market is working right now. Some of this is a function of prices have been high for quite some time. And because of that, sellers who are putting their homes on the market understandably would like to see prices and listing prices that are in line with whatever the highest number might have been in recent memory. And for a lot of cases, that's earlier this year where we really did peak with some high numbers before interest rates rose to the point that they're at right now. In those situations where sellers are listing their home high and higher than what the market will bear, those homes will naturally not sell as quickly because buyers are not in a position to spend that same amount of money. And sometimes it does take sellers and their agents, well, sellers definitely in consulting with their agents need to determine that the price that they've come to is not in line with what the market's expectation is. And so that's the sort of advice that if you or someone you know is looking to sell, needs to be considered and needs to be really properly consulted before a home is put on the market for sale in a market like this, because homes are still selling, buyers are still out there and shopping, but there's an awareness of where the market is right now and what this current market can bear in terms of affordable options for people who are looking for homes. This column right here, average sale price over listing price, is a good indicator of how the pricing of a home relates to what the home will actually sell for. If you've been looking at real estate in recent memory, there's a lot of underpricing where homes sell for over ask. You hear a lot about over ask and bidding wars, and a lot of signs will reflect this home was sold for over ask. In a lot of cases, that's just a function of seller or their agent or their strategy pricing below what the market will bear for a home. And naturally, if you price lower than what the market is willing to pay, the home is going to sell for over the asking price. Pricing lower does generate more interest. It gets more showings. It gets more offers. But it also is not necessarily indicative of what the market value of a home is. And so you can see here that year to date, on average, most homes were selling on average for more than what the listing price was. And now, for the first time in quite some time, we've dipped back to 100%, which on average is basically saying that homes are finally getting to the point where they're priced at or around what they're actually looking for. At least those homes that are selling are the ones that are selling close to or at the listing price that's put out there. People are selling their home and asking for what they want. Obviously, this is an average, so there are still homes that underprice and sell for more, and there are still homes that overprice and sell for less. But on average, it's refreshing to see numbers around 100% and 99% because it does give the market of buyers more of an understanding and expectation that the prices they're seeing are indicative of the price, in fact, that a seller is looking for. Now, if I move to this next chart, this gets a little bit more specific, a little bit more visual and aesthetic maybe of what's going on in the Vaughan market here with some clear numbers. So year to date, we can see here that by September, there's been 52 or 5,220 or so sold properties, which is down compared to last year at this time. So less has sold. We talked about that. And new listings are up 25% as compared to the same time last year. So that's really important that you can see that's what we're looking at right now is more supply and not necessarily less demand, but less transactions taking place as the pricing of properties starts to get closer to the expectations of buyers. Because really, it comes naturally that what it is that's property is going to sell for is only going to take place when a buyer and seller agree on a price. And so when the gap between a buyer's expectations and a seller's expectation is too wide, properties sit on the market and buyers go elsewhere, and sellers wait for a buyer to come along until such time that somebody's willing to pay what they're looking for, or the seller is willing to negotiate and come down off of the price that they're at. The monthly sale price here, this is the trend of sale prices in Vaughan. And this is sort of speaking to what I was talking about before, where you can see that in the beginning of this year, we peaked at an average price of over 1.3 million across Vaughan. We're now back down to 1.12 million, which relative to January, February is much lower, but relative to this same time a year ago is actually considerably higher. That's why when you compare year over year, it does look like prices are getting higher. But when you look in the nearer term, even as recent as the early summer, we're still catching up to this mini peak that took place here at the beginning of the summer, and definitely nowhere near the peak that took place at the beginning of the 2023 year, or sorry, 2022, which is here. Sorry, I'm comparing back. I went back 2 years, but it's the same story here, that this was the peak at the beginning of this year and into the spring. And when you look back, we're higher now than we were at the same time last year. And the massive peak that took place was at the beginning of 2022, where interest rates were not yet going up and people were still spending money hand over fist. That was in the heart of the pandemic as well, where there was a lot of transacting going on in real estate as well. So the trend is up in the most recent period of time, but it is going to take some time to reach that peak, and we should get back to what the annual peak was by the end of this calendar year. The expectation with interest rates, again, is that there might be one more hike, and that if and when interest rates do start to settle and go down, that will not be until at least the spring of 2024, which means that there will be some added support for home buyers, which in effect will also bring demand back to higher price levels, and also for sellers who want to hold on and wait on the sidelines, potentially give them higher prices and get us to that area, maybe closer to this sort of 1.15, 1.2 by the spring of next year. You can also see here the monthly sold properties has been consistently decreasing since the spring. We're now at almost half on a monthly basis of the number of home sales taking place in the month of September as compared to the month of May. And it's been a steady decline taking place that is in line with the same sorts of trends that we've seen with interest rates going up. Okay, so that's what's going on right now in the Vaughan market, but we're going to close, as we will every month, with what was the highest price sale of the month and what was the lowest price sale of the month. And first, we're going to jump into the highest priced sale of the month. And it was this home here near the corner of Bathurst and Elgin Mills in Vaughan. And to give you some perspective, it was on the market for 144 days, this home. It sat on 1.32 acres. So this was a huge property. And when you look through it, it was a magnificent piece of land. This was a development play for the most part. I'll show you some pictures of the inside. But as we go inside here, definitely something that people could move in and take advantage of it right away. But it was being marketed very much as something that people would add their personal touches to. A huge property, surprisingly only a 3-bedroom on such a large piece of land and with so much square footage. Definitely some great original detail in this home. And it sold for, I haven't yet told you, but it sold for a price of $4.15 million. Now, it had been asking 4.49 million, so it did not wait for its number, so to speak. But it was on the market again for 144 days and did sell in the month of September as the highest priced sale in the city of Vaughan. It sold for 92% of its asking price. And here it is again at Bathurst and Elgin Mills. That is a very majestic basement going on there. You could host quite a party down there. And obviously, the yard and land is magnificent on this property. I believe it was almost 400 feet deep, to put it into perspective, how much yard that this particular home had. Now, jumping into the lowest priced sale of the month of September was right here in West Woodbridge, near the Market Lane area. This townhome here sold in 12 days on market. And we can go and we can take a look at the inside of this. Very nicely put together home here. It was also a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home, a townhome, and it was well put together. I'm reluctant to say that people are getting deals or bargains, because it is still it is quite an adventure out there in purchasing a home. But for this to be the lowest priced purchase in the month of September, it's a pretty great home to get in West Woodbridge. Now, this home was asking $880,000. It was on the market for 12 days, and it sold for $849,000. So again, like we said before, this is not a market where we're seeing a lot of over ask sales, a lot of multiple bids, nothing like that. That still takes place. But this was a home that needed a little bit of work, but definitely a great home for a family. 3-bed, 3-bath, has a yard, and in a nice area in West Woodbridge. And that was your lowest price sale in the month of September. And so that is your report for the month of September in Vaughan. I hope this was helpful. We are always here at On the Block Vaughan to answer any questions you've got about your property. If you know anybody who has questions about real estate, we're here and we look at these numbers and information. Keep an ear to the ground in real time, all the time, about everything that's going on in our backyard, because that's our job and that's the service that we're here to provide. Be sure to follow us on Instagram if you're not already, at On the Block Vaughan. And if you haven't yet clicked the subscribe button, make sure you stay on top of all of our monthly reports and other information we put up on our YouTube channel here. We will be back with another report for the month of October at the beginning of November, and all kinds of other content will take place. So again, subscribe. It helps us out quite a bit. Put your comments in the video and your questions. We'll get back to every single one of them. Follow us on all of our social channels, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, and have yourself a fantastic day.